Hi, and welcome to Bayloric TV Boxing channel. Don't forget to rate and subscribe and leave your comments. I'd appreciate that. So, what fight have we got here? It's Arthur Abraham defending his WBO super middleweight title against Britain's Martin Murray. Now, you think about these two fighters and you think to yourself, well, alright, Arthur Abraham, he's come to the end of his career, and Martin Murray, he's young, he's hungry. You know, he's got a good work rate. He's tough. He's strong. He can box a bit. And immediately UK fans are saying, "Oh, Martin Murray and Arthur Abraham, this is a points fight." And the fact that it's in Germany, that Murray would struggle to get a victory. I guess that's a very valid point, and we've seen many fights in the past. We just have to look at the fight with Paul Smith. The first fight, I'd like to point out that Smith could have won that fight against Arthur Abraham. But you saw in the second fight, Arthur Abraham showed his class and won that fight quite comfortably. Now this fight with Martin Murray versus Arthur Abraham, see, I've got some concerns. I don't think it's a given this fight is a 12-round points decision for Arthur Abraham, or I don't think this is a 12-round fight just because Murray's tough and strong. All the stuff that Martin Murray has done is at middleweight. His draw with Sturm was at middleweight. His loss to Gennady Golovkin was at middleweight. And his fight against the WBC champion at the time, Martinez, beat an old Martinez. Now, I think Martin Murray won the fight against Martinez. I will state that in the championship rounds, the one thing I've noticed about Martin Murray, he hasn't got an extra gear. He hasn't got that little extra special to move into that next gear, rounds 10, 11, and 12. He seems to tire, and his output of punches isn't the same way. I think that was the reason why he lost the Martinez fight. Even though I thought he beat Martinez, I thought he allowed Martinez back into the fight because his work rate dropped off. And you really can't afford your work rate to drop off in the championship rounds in the champion's backyard. Anyway, so now he gets a complete shellacking by Gennady Golovkin. Now, I just said to myself, looking at the fight with Gennady Golovkin and Martin Murray doesn't punch. He's not a world-class puncher. He's just a really strong guy that comes forward throwing punches, and he's got a big heart. That's what Martin Murray's got. But in terms of lateral movement, he hasn't got things like lateral movement. You know, he doesn't move his head that great. He's just a tough, strong kid. He's got a lot of heart and can bully you in a fight. But if Martin Murray can't hurt you, and that's at the highest level, at world level, you know, Martin Murray is pretty limited at world level, world-class fighters. Felix Sturm, for me, again, the fight against Sturm was a good fight. But again, his strength has been the key at middleweight. And Gennady Golovkin is an exceptional fighter who has got a big punch. I don't know if you've noticed that, but he's got a big punch. And, you know, Martin Murray couldn't hurt him, but Gennady Golovkin could hurt Martin Murray. And if Martin Murray can't hurt you in a fight, then, you know, and your world level, he's a bit limited. And Martin Murray's strength at middleweight was key to his successes as a world-class fighter. And I would say his strength, not his punch power, but his strength and his heart and his willingness to get involved, I would say would have been the elements that made him a world-class fighter or kept him in that top 10 contender category, you know. Now we're looking at, and he's got more than enough at British level, and I would say at European level. Now we step up to super middleweight. And I would like to remind you that at super middleweight, Arthur Abraham, when he stepped up to super middleweight at first, I didn't think was very effective. He was a thunderous puncher at middleweight, but at super middleweight, it didn't seem like the punch power has converted. But he still had, you know, world class. I think he still punches hard enough to not allow you to walk straight through him. Carl Froch, again, not big at super middleweight, but physically strong at super middleweight, was able to get in and out against Arthur Abraham. So Abraham can be outboxed. You ask yourself a question. At super middleweight, who's the better fighter? Paul Smith or Martin Murray? I think a lot of people would say Martin Murray. The difference between Martin Murray and Paul Smith for me is that I think Paul Smith had that American influence. And you may laugh at that, but that was the ability for him to be able to move in and out to the sides against Arthur Abraham. I think more Martin Murray is going to stand in the pocket with Abraham and have more of a shootout fight, which I think will be to his detriment. Martin Murray has done zippo, zilch, nothing, niente at super middleweight. And he's come off quite a bad beating by Gennady Golovkin in a fight where, like I said, he couldn't hurt the champion and the champion could hurt him. That's a bad beating over 11 rounds. And there's nothing to suggest that at super middleweight, Martin Murray will be able to hurt Arthur Abraham. And there's nothing to suggest that Martin Murray has recovered from the shellacking he took from Gennady Golovkin. And if Abraham, who I think punches hard enough, can start to get through some big shots, and Murray can't shift him because the move to fight Abraham was such a quick move and was just a rush to get him a super middleweight title shot, you know, this fight may have come a little too soon for Martin Murray because it doesn't prove anything beating up two guys who just, you know, probably not even good enough to be at British level, let alone European level. So he hasn't proven anything to me at super middleweight. So for me, first of all, if there's going to be a stoppage in the fight, I'm going to say Arthur Abraham. And I think Arthur Abraham could force a stoppage in this fight. Yeah, I do. I think that's the question. Has Martin Murray recovered from that beating he took from Gennady Golovkin? And if he's in that situation again where he's getting hit and hurt by Arthur Abraham, that's the thing. Is he going to be able to absorb that punishment over a 12-round distance again? Can he do it again when he's in a position where he can't hurt Arthur Abraham? Now, on the flip side, if Martin Murray can start fast, if he can work to the body, if he can do those things, there's no reason why this fight won't go 12 rounds and Martin Murray get beat on points. If he gets a decision in Germany, what a performance. What a performance. Some would say against an aged Arthur Abraham, he's still got to do it. I'm not sure if his chances are better than Paul Smith, simply because Arthur Abraham underestimated Paul Smith in the first fight. The second fight, as you saw, a different Arthur Abraham. I don't think Arthur Abraham will make that mistake again, much to the unfortunate of Martin Murray. So for me, I think that Arthur Abraham will either win this fight by pointing Martin Murray down the stretch, rounds 10, 11, and 12, or stop him. Yeah. While I don't think Arthur Abraham punches as hard as he did as a middleweight, I think he is now developed into a super middleweight in the sense that he's been at the weight long enough now and he's sort of grown into the weight. And at 35, I don't think he'll make middleweight again. Whereas Martin Murray has just come into the super middleweight division. And I think maybe 4 or 5 fights down the line, or 3 or 4 fights down the line where his body had actually into a proper super middleweight and he fought a top 10 contender, then maybe we could have seen a little bit more of Martin Murray. But I've got to go with what Arthur Abraham has achieved in his career. So those are my thoughts. Love to know what you guys think. I'm out. Take care.